Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Aussie writers and other creatives.
Hello, and I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well, and Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, ideas, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. Hi, Rach. It's good to see you. What's been going on this week for you?
Well, lots of juggling, as we're all doing right now, but I managed to give my kid a very good lockdown birthday. Sadly, it was just him and the adults. But also gave my dad a decent Father's Day yesterday. And my husband's in quarantine right now, but we're looking forward to getting him out next week. So it's just all about those little things, I suppose, and celebrations and cake.
Exactly. It totally is. We had a lovely Father's Day here as well. Although I think I'm still recovering because, the father in this house loves curry and I'm still recovering from the big curry dinner last night. But yes, But I do feel lucky that I've got lots of work on, and this is why I'm really keen to hear from our guest this week, because I know she's really busy and she's got some great tips to share with us.
Yes, we do have a great guest this week, another in our occasional series with successful freelancers. And this week we have Michelle Bateman. I know that many of our listeners will know of Michelle or may have crossed paths with her in the magazine world or the content marketing world or the copywriting world. And you may have also been to her fantastic session in our Beyond Journalism masterclass. That was a couple of years ago now. Michelle Bateman is a freelance writer and editor specialising in beauty, fashion and culture. She started her career in magazines and still contributes to print and online publications. Her fashion and beauty journalism has appeared in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, Beauty Independent and Women's Health. She was also editorial director for the Bauer Media-owned websites beautyheaven.com.au and beautydirectory.com.au, overseeing an SEO-led digital content strategy. We should just jump in and say Bauer Media is now our media. Our media.
Our.
For more than a decade, Michelle has also written copy and content for cosmetics and lifestyle brands. Michelle, welcome. We are so stoked to have you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, I know you and I have obviously been friends for ages and years. I can't even remember how many years it is. We often go for walks together, although COVID permitting, of course. And you've written for us at Rachel's List. You did that fantastic masterclass for us that's still really relevant today. And we'll put a link in the show notes for that for anyone who wants to seek it out.
The masterclass was such a fantastic event. I'm really hoping that once the world kind of spins back on its axis and gets back to normal, we can have some more events in future.
Yeah, I'd love that.
We hope so. I loved your masterclass. I was there too. And I certainly learned a lot about copywriting, which was a really new skill for me then. And I got a lot out of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. I learned so much on that day as well. It's just really great hearing other people's experiences. I think it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. I think it's just really great to hear other perspectives and how others are approaching it.
And also how journalists are sort of moving beyond just print and moving into other areas and stuff like that, which is really interesting. And that's a lot of what you do. And we've talked a lot about having a niche on the podcast. I know that yours is beauty and health, which sounds very glamorous. But in that post that I mentioned that you wrote for Rachel's List about becoming a beauty writer, it busted some of those myths right out of the water, didn't it? So tell us a bit about how you moved into that niche and if you think a niche is important.
Yeah, look, I guess I sort of fell into it by accident a little bit. I'd been freelancing for TV Week for a few years, and my editor at the time, Emma Nolan, asked if I'd be interested in launching a lifestyle section for the magazine. That was sort of my first foray into that area. It was something that I'd always been interested in, so it was a real natural fit for me. So I kind of made it a focus from that point onwards and just hit the ground running in that direction, particularly sort of moving increasingly towards beauty and health and a bit of fashion as well. In terms of having a niche, I guess that it's a question that really comes up a lot when you talk to journalists and to freelancers. And for me, I think it kind of depends on your interest and also the goals that you have for your business. I think one of the great things about freelancing, one of the things I've always loved about freelancing, is that you really have scope to cover such a great variety of topics. You don't have to get locked into any one area or only be talking about one particular topic. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you like being more generalist, I think that that's absolutely something that you should pursue, because it is a great joy that comes with freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I think having a niche works because the topics that I focus on, I am personally really interested in, but I think also my clients really value the expertise, the additional expertise that I bring to them. Yes, of course, I create content for them, whatever that looks like, but they will also rely on me to talk to them about industry trends in general, help them, shape the direction of their product launches. Sometimes I might be talking to skincare brands about their latest formulations and what ingredients are really trending. I might help with naming products. So having that extra expertise for me works in that way as well.
Oh, that's so interesting. And it brings me back again to that post that you wrote. Can you kind of tell people who might think that beauty writing is really easy and kind of fluffy and fun? Is that the case, or is there so much that goes into it and so much knowledge that you need to have?
I think it absolutely is fun. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah,
it definitely is. But I think it's certainly an area that the more you know and the more you can bring your own knowledge to it, the more value you can give to your reader. So if you're simply trying to interpret information at face value and put that into a story, it can be really hard, because the layers of research kind of build up over time. And the more you, as with any area, if I was writing, there are certain topics that if I was just asked to write about them with no prior expertise, I'd really struggle. Any area that has that kind of component, technology, cars, all of those fields require or really benefit from additional knowledge. And it really helps you to be able to interpret the information that you're working with, and then to be able to communicate it and convey it in a more interesting way, I think, for readers. So yes, while it is super fun and glamorous, having the extra information or expertise or background to a topic, I think certainly means you can bring a lot more to it.
It's so true. And you can also ask the right questions of clients and experts that you're interviewing and that sort of thing, instead of kind of floundering a bit and, not getting what you need. It could just be waste time, I suppose.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, with those, I guess, technical areas, if you don't have the background, you actually don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So when it comes to interviewing an expert, you often don't even know the questions to ask. Like I said, if I was sort of asked to do a piece on a topic that I had no background in, yes, you can do an okay job with it. Yes, you can do your research, but it's having that background that really kind of adds to that.
So how long have you been freelancing for? It's been quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, just almost 18 years.
Wow.
So 18 years in January.
One of the things I think about with the niche, or one of the stories out there, is if you're in a niche, it gets easier to find clients. They often come to you. Do you think it is easier to find clients, or is that a thing after you've been doing it for a while? It's a word of mouth thing that gets out there.
I think my experience has been that the clients that I work with, they value constant communication with their customers as well. So I'm actually not really constantly looking for new clients. Most of the work that I do is with regular clients who want to be able to talk to their community or their customers on a regular basis. So they actually need someone who can work with them in an ongoing capacity rather than an ad hoc kind of capacity. But I also think that, in addition to that, having that word of mouth certainly makes it easier to attract new clients.
Mm-hmm. And how has the pandemic treated you? Has it affected the beauty business at all, or have you been relatively unaffected by it?
Look, I think I personally, or in terms of my business, I've been fortunate because most of my work is with those regular clients. I haven't really been impacted so much. They still see the value in communicating regularly. So the frequency of their communications hasn't really changed, or their communications needs haven't really changed. The beauty business has definitely been impacted in actually a real variety of ways. So if it's salons and beauty professionals, for example, they've really felt the brunt of lockdowns, of course, and it's been quite devastating for a lot of them, and that part of the industry has really suffered.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, companies and brands that are creating products that people can use at home, a lot of them have done really well.
That's what I was thinking about, that the makeup brands and all those big online makeup stores must be booming, I guess.
Even just things like,
home hair colours.
Yeah. Which I need just quietly.
And look, let's be honest, we're all stuck at home, and we're kind of looking for little pick-me-ups, and beauty really caters to that, that they really provide that, whether it's saying I'm going to treat myself to a beautiful new perfume or a new candle, or, it's just something that can just make us feel a bit better in our lives at the moment as well. Beauty's great for that.
Yeah, for sure.
You started as a journalist like Rachel and I. So was it hard to move into that sort of content and copywriting? And you do both too still, don't you? Is it hard to juggle the two?
Look, I think if you're a good writer, you can adapt to different styles of writing, whether that's journalism, copywriting, content marketing. At their heart, they're all writing, but they're definitely not the same.
Yeah.
And I would say, don't just assume that because you know how to write in one area, you automatically will know how to write in another way. I would actually say use it as a learning opportunity, because there are great resources out there. There are great experts in each field. And if you go into it thinking, how can I learn? What is the best practice for this field at the moment, and really kind of dive in and have a desire to learn how to create good copy or good content to meet the different objectives, I think that's how you can go. I think being a good writer is the absolute sort of first criteria.
Like baseline, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's about adding to your own education to be able to build on that.
So you sort of agree that we should all be upskilling even at this stage of our lives and doing courses and learning more and all of that?
Look, again, I think it really comes down to your own goals and business objectives. For me, I enjoy the variety that comes with being able to write in different ways. Some people will like certain formats more than others, but I think also, why not? Instead of just seeing it as a chore, something else on my to-do list, I need to keep upskilling. It's about, okay, where is our industry moving?
Yeah.
And how can we keep up with that? Because actually we love what we do. So why not? Why would we not want to keep up with where it's going?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love, I get so excited about the idea of doing courses or workshops or anything like that. I just have such little time, it really depresses me that I don't have more time to do that stuff. But I always have a little list going of what I want to do. So I think it's good. Yeah. We all need to be, like you say, furthering our knowledge and, looking at best practice, how things are changing, because it is changing at breakneck speed, I guess.
It absolutely is.
Look, I know you're often working on really big projects, aren't you? Like you do the Coles Beauty Mag quarterly. And so do you prefer those big projects, like kind of sinking your teeth into it, or does it impact your other clients? Like, how does it work? Do you sort of say to your other clients, I'm unavailable for this stint of time, or do you just work like crazy to keep everyone happy?
Oh, it's always a juggling act, isn't it? I actually don't think that gets any easier, no matter.
Yeah, no.
And I do try to map out my workload in advance when I have those, if it's a big quarterly project, that there are going to be those weeks where you really have to focus so intensely on that one thing. So I do try to map things out around it, but I do tend to just work extra hard for those couple of weeks to fit other things in. I think for me, the important thing is to just know and remember that it's a short-term thing. I can do that for a week or 2 weeks, but For me, I'm not comfortable doing it for long periods of time because I just think, you don't want work to suffer. So I think if it's a short-term thing, you kind of just pull out all the stops for a couple of weeks, which I think regardless of the frequency of your deadlines, we all have those times when everything seems to land in the same week and we all just work extra hard those weeks. So
yeah.
But to come back to your original question, I really love having a mix. I love having those big projects that I can really own and sink my teeth into, and have that real satisfaction of when the magazine lands on your desk. It's a really fantastic feeling to have it there and to be able to see all of your work for the quarter all in that magazine. It's wonderful. But then at the same time, it's great to have, shorter pieces, blog posts, short articles in newspapers as well. It's a nice mix.
I have to admit, I'm so envious actually of you, because that is something I do really miss from my magazine days, working on that issue, seeing it come to fruition, seeing it land, on your desk. It's such an exciting thing to work on, and I feel like I haven't done that in years. So you really do have the best of both worlds if you can work on those quarterly magazines, put an issue out, get all the satisfaction from that, but then go back to the shorter, more piecemeal stuff. You have a way better mix than I do. I want your life. I've just decided I want your life. We can swap.
I think there is an adrenaline too sometimes about that big deadline too. That's quite exciting. That sometimes pushes you to do your best work. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be honest, there's nothing quite like a print deadline to really make you
put a rocket up you.
When it's a print deadline that has, with the Coles Health and Beauty magazine, we do 500,000 copies.
Wow.
We print 500,000 copies a quarter. So that's a big print run,
Yeah.
And those deadlines are really set in stone. Mm-hmm. And so that really makes you meet the deadline, that's for sure.
Talk us through the split of your work, because I know you do a lot of copywriting, still do some journalism, do some content marketing. What's that breakdown like for you, and how easy is it for journalists like us to get into content and copywriting these days?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say the majority of what I do is content marketing, which I love. And that is for a range of clients. So Coles, of course, is massive. I also work with smaller independent brands. So content marketing for them might look like their blog posts and their newsletters and their social media. The majority of what I do would be content marketing. I then also do copywriting for a lot of the same brands. With those smaller independent brands, a lot of what I do will be all pretty much all of their copy and content needs. And some of that might be packaging copy, some of it might be, print material or web copy.
Mm-hmm.
And then editorial, I try to do as much as possible. I still love editorial. I think journalism is, I love doing that. So I try to do it as much as I can and fit in as much as I can, and say yes to all of the commissions that I for that reason.
Yeah.
But it is challenging. I think it is challenging to switch quickly from one to the other. You really, I'm more and more, I'm finding that I really block my time and say, okay, today I'm doing this kind of writing in the morning, and then I might do strategy work in the afternoon, and really trying to batch those times and work out which days of the week are great writing days for me, and then which I'm much better to spend on research. I feel like it's an ongoing work in progress. If anyone has the answer and the solution to the ideal kind of mix of productivity, please let me know.
I am a big fan of batching myself, but right now batching is not working in my life at all. It's just basically a madcap roller coaster of get shit done whenever you can do it, even if that's at midnight. And I look forward to going back to how life was. So no, I don't have any solution. Sorry.
I know you and I have talked a lot about batching, and I think I've really learned a lot from you about it. Because it wasn't something I really gave a lot of thought to until I needed to. And I know that I've really mentally gone back to a lot of our conversations and learned a lot from them.
Because if you can put the same things together, like research or transcribing or writing, your day does work out so much better, I think, if you can do it. Yeah.
I certainly think your point about the different types of content, because I do find that you really have to get into a different mindset to do that different types of writing, whether it's content. Otherwise, your editorial work can sound a bit too commercial, or vice versa. I know when I've done a lot of journalism and then I've done a piece of content, now it's come back that it's a bit too lifestyle-y and not salesy enough, and vice versa. So that's something I've had to learn, to really sort of sit down and clear my brain and start kind of thinking in a way. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I tend to try and do my writing very early in the mornings for a couple of reasons. I find I think more clearly then. I'm less likely to have emails and other interruptions come in. But also it means I do kind of come to each piece with a much fresher brain and without that kind of baggage from the other work that you just were talking about, Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good tactic if you can get up early.
I will say that. But my brain kind of stops at about 4:30 in the afternoon, so I have to do it in the morning.
Yeah, so I'm like Michelle, but I know Rachel sends me amazingly wonderful things she does late at night, which I could just never be able to manage it. So it's horses for courses, Rachel.
It's more for necessity, really. I would prefer to be in bed. But anyway.
Michelle, we've often talked about how we like to work and doing a bit of working from home and working in-house. So do you like the combination of both, or how's it? I mean, at the moment it's very hard to work in-house, but generally
I do like a mix. I prefer to be at home when I'm writing, and I don't like really any noise around me when I'm writing. I don't listen to music when I'm writing.
I'm the same, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Just like to have a lot of clear kind of space around me for that kind of thing. But I do think that particularly with ongoing clients and ongoing work, there's a lot of value to be had by being in their office or in-house for, even if it's one day a week or even less frequently than that. You really can pick up so much information by being in the office that people don't even realise is useful information. It might just be an incidental conversation that you have, but it actually can spark so much. So I do think that there's a lot of value in that. Also, hopefully we like the people that we work with, and it is actually nice to spend time with them. So that there's that benefit as well.
I think that's so true. We actually did a post that was really popular at Rachel's List, and it was all about this number one tactic for getting more work. And it was, don't say no all the time to going in-house if it's one day a week. I know Lynn used to do one day a week on a magazine. Was it That's Life?
Yeah, That's Life, yeah.
And a lot of journos I talked to said that was actually how they managed to pick up more work, because they were meeting people in the lift that they hadn't seen in a while, or they'd bump into an editor who thought, hey, I need this piece written, and they'd get commissions. And so I agree with you. I think there's a lot of value, if obviously COVID permitting, if you can, be in there occasionally with your clients or your editors, for sure.
Absolutely. And I know early on, when I was mostly working in magazines, that was absolutely how I got so much work. You would bump into people in the lifts, and it's impossible to be top of mind for people all the time. So it's just a great way it's sort of face-to-face marketing, really. I think when we think about marketing now, you think so much about, say, social media and having your presence there, but actually the real life presence is so valuable. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully one day we can all go back and meet people in person. That would
Beyond
be nice.
The Zoom. Oh, we dream. One thing we do like to ask guests on the show is if they have any apps or tools or something they find that helps them be more productive or do their work better. What about you? Have you got some favorite tips?
I absolutely do. I think the day I discovered that I no longer ever needed to transcribe an interview was the happiest day of my professional life.
Here.
So Rev would have to be definitely one of my top tools that I use to transcribe my interviews. I could not live without them now. But the other one that I absolutely would be completely lost without is It's a productivity software called Airtable. I know a lot of people use there, a bunch of them, whether it's Monday or Asana or Trello. I love Airtable. It takes a bit of getting used to because it's very flexible. You really can build what you need from it from scratch, but that also means that you kind of need to figure out exactly what you want it to do before you get started. But I'm obsessed with it. I've used it for about 3 years. I use it in so many different ways, from tracking my time to keeping track of deadlines, doing editorial calendars for clients. I just use it in a multitude of ways, and I really couldn't live without it.
Wow. Oh, that's good. I've been using Trello, and I know Rachel's just got into Asana. So they're all sort of similar things. And I guess it's however you set it up. Really, you set it up to what suits you, and all of those things can be evolved into the way you work, or vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to find what works for you. I have used Trello, but I prefer Asana. And I've also started using Slack, and I just love having all the channels with all the different things that we are discussing at Rachel's List particularly, or the podcast, or, anything that we're discussing now sits in a channel, instead of it being this kind of random text message or an email you can't find. And then you can link tasks back to Asana from Slack, and it's just brilliant. It's changing my life. So I agree. We all need to get something like that, whether it's Airtable, Monday.com or Asana or Trello. Yeah,
absolutely. I have to say, I could never really understand the value of Slack before I started using it, because I thought, how is it
Me
different?
either.
Just use email. Why would you just not?
Yeah. It took me ages to get to it, but now I see it's like, why did I leave it so long to get into this? Because it's so great, isn't it? Lynn and I use it for the podcast as well, don't we?
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. And there's so many good tools, but I guess when you have multitude of clients and different projects, something like that is really important too, isn't it?
It's really important. And I'm a big advocate of putting everything about the task in the task.
Yeah.
I don't like multiple message chains. I hate email for that reason, because email's very separate. It's very hard to integrate. And so whatever tool you use, because I think increasingly they all facilitate this. But for me, I love Airtable, so that's the one I use. But it really allows you to put all of the information about the task in the task, whether it's the deadline, whether that's how much you're going to be invoicing, whether that's the time, tracking your time on it, whether it's a brief from a client, attachments, research, whatever it is, just so you're not scrambling around between folders and emails and inboxes and messages. It's all in one place.
I think that's really good advice, because we can so easily leave those threads, can't we? And you still have to go and hunt down a piece of information. So it's really about getting, really getting organized into having it in the one place, for sure. Yeah. I agree.
There is nothing worse than getting to the end and then finding that there's a critical interview that you were supposed to have done, or a deadline that you might have missed, or some images that are sitting there that you really didn't know about. It's just the worst feeling.
That is something actually that I found Trello really good for, Lynn. I don't know if you're doing this, but in the boards, you would create the project or the task or whatever, and then have a checklist in there. And I would put in everyone I had to interview, the transcripts, the research I had to do, everything, and then I would just tick it off as it was done. And
that is my favorite thing in it. Yeah,
it makes the process really, really useful and simple.
Yes.
We are nearing the end of the podcast, but I really want to just have one more question for you. You're one of the most successful freelancers I know, and I would love if you would just share some tips with the journos listening who may be trying to carve out a new pathway for themselves. What would be your advice to them, or to anyone who might be struggling in finding new clients or moving into copywriting or content marketing, I suppose?
I guess there are a couple of ways to approach that, depending on the situation. If the situation is wanting to move into another field, whether it's copywriting or content marketing, I would, as I said earlier, I'd use it as a learning opportunity. I'd seek out the people who are experts there, because they're great experts. They've got huge presence online in each field, just to make sure you're really learning best practices. There are a lot of not so great examples of all of those things out there, as there are in every field. So, look for the best examples and what you can learn from them. There's a lot of value also in trying to work with agencies if you can, not necessarily thinking that you need to work directly with clients. One of the values or one of the great benefits of working with an agency is that you actually can learn ways of working with clients.
Yeah. Good tip.
So true.
You know, that's not something as a journalist that you necessarily learn how to do. And there will be a lot of journalists who aren't interested in learning how to create presentations or, you know, presenting to clients. And that's fine. If that's not your jam, then you absolutely don't have to do it. But if that's what you want to learn how to do, that's what the agencies are already doing. So you can start to build on those skills as well in terms of how to work with clients, how to manage their expectations, how to speak to them and communicate with them in a way that resonates with them as well. Because I think when you're a journalist, if you're working with an editor, the editor is already coming from a similar background to you. They are already speaking your language. Clients are not necessarily speaking your language. If your client is a plumber, they're not speaking your language. So how do you learn how to talk to them? You know, there's a lot of value in bridging that gap. I think if the area that you're looking to develop is, you know, how to build your business or if you're just starting out as a freelancer, I think, you know, it's a well-worn tip, but the idea of treating it as a business from the start is just really important. And that also means setting up your processes effectively from the start. And in some ways, it's actually easier to do that when you're not swamped with actual work as well. You can actually spend the time to refining your process, which is not to say put off launching until you've refined ad nauseum, but you know, if you spend the time refining your process, it actually can save you time down the track, particularly if you're creating templates and putting workflows into place.
Oh, definitely, because there is that regret when you realize, I should have had a contract here. I should have sent this type of invoice. I should have had an ABN or should have charged GST. All those things are much better right at the beginning than to do it retrospectively, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if you get into good habits from the beginning as well, it makes things a lot easier to follow through because you already know what your own personal steps are or your own business steps are, whether you want to send out a quote with a scope of work, having those steps in place will really save you a lot of time.
And I love your tip about working with the agencies, because I think in a lot of cases you can approach agencies and get on their books and start getting regular work from them. And it is quite good having them as the buffer between you and the client, and then you can just carry on with the regular work and still pick up other clients on the side. I work with heaps of agencies and some have approached me and I've approached some for work. So I think it's a really good thing to do. If you see agencies that are working with the type of clients you want to write for, you should get in touch with them.
Absolutely. And I've done that also. Yeah, definitely gotten in touch with agencies and just said, look, I really admire the work that you're doing. Here's what I do. If there's any opportunities, I'd love to work with you.
Yeah, that's a great tip. It really is. Oh, Michelle, it's great to have you on. We've learned so much. There's some really lovely things that you've shared with us. I think really generous. And I really thank you for sharing a bit about your journey and a bit about that niche of beauty. I think that's interesting. And I think it's the sort of thing that people are often interested in, but maybe they don't think about the content side of it. They just think about the magazine side. So it's quite good.
Yeah. Thank you. That is just so useful for everybody. I'm sure everyone listening will get so much out of it. And we will put in some info in the show notes about the masterclass that you did and the blog post, and tell everybody else where they can find you if they want to track you down.
Look, I'm not so great on social media, but I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. I do spend time on there, even if I'm not appearing to be too active. That's a great place to find me. I don't expect too much from me on there.
And you've got a website too. I had a look at that before, which has got some great examples of some of your work as well. Thanks.
I do.
We'll put links to that as well.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review or a rating on Apple or Stitcher or
wherever you find your podcast.
Your podcast platform of choice. And we'll be back next week.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks again, Michelle. Bye.
Bye.